forever, for the union makes us strong.
This text of the press conference that we are holding now at the end of National Executive Council NEC meeting of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, at the Federal University of Technology, Minna, on Wednesday, today, 11th December 2019. Comrades and compatriots of the press, at its meeting of the 7th to 8th December 2019, held at the Federal University of Technology, Minna, the National Executive Council of the Academic Staff Unions of Universities reviewed issues affecting the Union, Nigerian universities, and the state of our nation. In particular, NEC noted with dismay that the orchestrated moves by the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation and the Federal Ministry of Finance to impose integrated payroll and personnel information system on Nigeria's federal universities is part of government's plan to distract us from calling for the conclusion of the truncated renegotiation of the 2009 agreement, as well as the full implementation of the 7th February 2019 Memorandum of Action it reached with the Union. NEC did not only restate its unequivocal rejection of IPs as an ill wind that will blow the Nigerian university system no good, it also resolved that no amount of blackmail, intimidation, and outright misinformation of the Nigerian public will make ASU lose focus on its historic role as the conscience of the university system. The first issue I will address here is renegotiation of the 2009 FGN-ASU agreement. Compatriots of the press, you will possibly recall that the FGN and ASU teams started renegotiating the 2009 agreement in March 2017 with the Minister of Education's charge that it should be concluded within 6 weeks. However, the exercise has remained comatose. The problem started when the government team, led by Dr. Wale Babalakin, SAN, at the first meeting, insisted on adjourning for almost 6 months on the excuse that the Abuja airport was undergoing renovation. For the next 2 years, the government team kept the renegotiating committee going in circles on matters of principles and procedures for collective bargaining. For instance, following the reappointment of the minister, on several occasions, ASU took its protest to the Minister of Education to no avail. For instance, following the reappointment of the minister, ASU wrote a letter dated 23rd August 2019, in which it stated, among other things, that, I quote, "Let me remind the Honorable Minister of the Union's letter dated 38 July 2018, wherein we complained of the difficulties the Union was facing with Dr. Babalaki. In clear terms, the Union does not believe that Dr. Babalaki is conversant with the roles of chairman of a government trade union negotiating committee. His attitude and tendencies to repudiate the recommendations of subcommittees constituted by the negotiation committee and imposition of personal positions on all members of the committee are clear indications that the leader of the government team is not disposed to the principles and ethics of collective bargaining. We also said this much in our correspondences with the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Education, in the month of July 2019. End of quotation. government has argued that the union cannot dictate to it on the composition of its negotiating team. However, the federal government has not kept its promise in the 2019 Memorandum of Action, which states that the permanent secretary will provide documented guidelines on procedures and to clearly define the roles of parties in the renegotiation process. End of quotation. In the MOA, it was then agreed that the renegotiation of the FGN-ASUU 2009 agreement should commence not later than Monday, 18th February 2019, and be concluded by Friday, 29th March 2019. The non-provision of the documented guidelines to date truncated the protracted renegotiation with the Babalakin-led team, and this is a reflection of the non-committal disposition of government. ASUU shall resist government's attempt to repudiate any aspect of the 2009 FGN-ASUU agreement. The agreement provides a blueprint for the revitalization of Nigerian universities. Our future as a nation depends on it. Since 1992, when a landmark agreement on the pathway to addressing the nagging issues of funding, conditions of service, university autonomy and academic freedom, and other related matters was signed with a military government, it has become much easier to track the trajectories of Nigeria's public universities. We therefore call on Nigerians and friends of Nigeria to join ASUU in preventing this civilian government from throwing a heritage of inestimable value to the waste dump. Visitation panels to federal universities. In the 7th February 2019 FGN-ASUU Memorandum of Action, it is stated that, I quote, arrangements for the visitation panels have been concluded and the approved list of members is in the process of being gazetted. Due to the forthcoming elections, a tentative date for the commencement of the visitation has been fixed for 11th March 2019. End of quotation. That visitation has not commenced. 9 full months after signing the memorandum with ASUU, that the visitation has not started by now is another evidence of government's lack of commitment to addressing the problems of our universities. For the avoidance of doubt, visitation to the universities is a critical element of assuring accountability in the institutions. The visitor to a university, this time, Mr. President, is required by the Establishment Act to empanel a team to undertake a review of the activities of the institution, including administrative, financial, disciplinary, personnel, and student matters, as a feedback mechanism at least once every 5 years. Where the situation demands, such visitation may also be carried out within a period of shorter length. However, the last general visitation to Nigeria's federal universities was carried out in January 2011, and all efforts to make government activate this mechanism for monitoring developments in the universities for 3 years running have been to no effect. ASUU is not surprised that government has developed cold feet in implementing its own laws with respect to visitation to universities, whereas the white paper emanating from a visitation panel's report should guide the governing council in decisively addressing fundamental flaws in the system, especially in respect of corrupt practices. It is shocking that many of the recommendations in the visitation panel's reports of 2011, which were approved in the gazetted white papers, are still awaiting implementation till date. This explains why ASUU has consistently argued that government's failure to activate the existing accountability mechanism within the system gives the lie to its claimed or its declared readiness to fight corruption in the universities with IPPIS. Mainstreaming of EAA into 2020 budget and payment of outstanding arrears. Another important aspect of the Memorandum of Action of February 2019 is the understanding on payment of the arrears of the non-academic allowances. Specifically, the federal government agreed to, I quote, pay the outstanding balance up to 2018 in 4 installments within a time frame of 36 months. 1 November 2019, that's the first installment. 2 August 2020, 3 May 2021, and 4 February 2022. In addition, the MOA states that government shall also mainstream further payments of the allowances into the annual budgets beginning with 2019 budget presently under consideration at the National Assembly. In the negotiation that led to the 2019 FGN ASUU Memorandum of Action, a joint team of ASUU and government agreed on a formula for mainstreaming EAA into the budgets of the universities. ASUU is bothered that nothing concrete came out of the agreement in 2019, and the same scenario is about to play out in the 2020 federal government's budget. Equally, the first installment of the outstanding balance of EAA up to 2018, which was due in November 2019, is nowhere to be found. This is a demonstration of bad faith. ASUU will no longer fold its arms while government takes it for a ride. Public universities. Compatriots of the press, you will possibly recall that the FGN ASUU Memorandum of Understanding of 2013 states that a total of 1.3 trillion will be massively injected into public universities to address the rot and decay documented in the federal government-sponsored needs assessment of 2012. The fund was to be released in 6 installments over a period of 6 years. 200 billion for 2013 and 220 billion for each of the subsequent 5 years. Apart from the initial 200 billion released between 2014 and 2017, only 20 billion has so far been added. In the February 2019 Memorandum of Action, the federal government promised to resume full implementation of the FGN ASUU 2013 MOU after sources of fund will have been identified. End of quotation. ASUU is aware that several sources of fund were identified at the 2-day National Stakeholders Workshop on Sustainable Funding of Education in November 2018. However, getting government to fulfill its promise has remained a mirage. ASUU insists that the federal government must keep its promise to revitalizing public universities, and the union shall do all it takes to protect the sanctity of the 2013 MOU. IPs as a distraction. The razzmatazz of the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation over IPs is for us in ASUU a distraction. ASUU is a creation of the World Bank. IPs is a creation of the World Bank. It is currently being implemented in Nigeria with a loan facility to the tune of US dollar 140 million as part of an economic reform and governance project. In the World Bank report number ICR 2901, dated March 14, 2014, the project development objectives, as quoted from the project appraisal document, are twofold. Number one, to improve the federal government's economic and financial management system and processes. And two, to firmly establish a reform process of the federal civil service to improve professionalism and government's ability to deliver services. However, the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation claims that IPEACE is meant to achieve 5 objectives, namely: 1. Centralized payroll system of the federal government. 2. Facilitate easy storage, updating, and retrieval of personnel record for administrative and pension processing. 3. Ascertain the actual personnel emoluments of the federal government. 4. Aid manpower planning. And 5. Comply with global best practice. ASUU does not have any issue with the government managing its finances in order to plug the plundering of the country's resources through corrupt practices. Our union abhors corruption, and it is on record that ASUU has raised alarm on several occasions in the past against administrators and governing councils who are suspected to have soiled their hands with university resources. When and where the visitor to a university is willing to activate the 3-layer filter, that is, internal auditing, external auditing, and visitation, as we have continually argued, corrupt practices will be brought to the BRS minimum. It is really confounding why IPEACE, which was designed to improve professionalism in the civil service, will be grafted into an entirely different work environment like the universities. The unanswered questions in the unnecessary debate include the following: does professionalism in civil service mean the same thing in the academia? In what other country in the world are academics brought under civil service rules and circulars? Which of the world-class universities recruit their academic staff or get personnel matters resolved through the Accountant General of the Federation, Minister of Finance, or the head of civil service? The agents of the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation have argued that some cash cows cannot be migrated to the IPEACE because they are fund-generating agencies. These agents should also be reminded that universities are knowledge-generating institutions. Like the so-called fund-generating institutions, the establishment laws of universities largely insulate them from strictures imposed by the civil service. The Universities Miscellaneous Provisions Amendment Act 2003 empowers governing councils to oversee personnel costs, overhead costs, research and development, library developments, and the balance in expenditure between academic fees and fees non-academic activities as provided in the approved and released budget. The provisions of the Act. By the provisions of the Act, only the governing councils have the power to hire or fire university academics, including vice chancellors, and superintend human and material resources of their universities. For the avoidance of doubt, Section 2AA of the Act puts the matter in bold relief. I quote, "The governing council of a university shall be free in the discharge of its functions and exercise its responsibilities for the good management, growth, and development of the universities." However, where a council is found wanting on account of corruption or incompetence, it shall be dissolved by the visitor, and a new council shall be immediately constituted for the effective functioning of the university. End of quotation. You find that in section 2A of that act. ASUU is shocked that the OAGF is saying IPEACE is meant to comply with global best practice when they cannot tell Nigerians any other country where IPEACE is extended to the universities as one of the best practices. We call on all people of goodwill to prevail on the Accountant General to respect university autonomy as the global best practice for the academia. With the cooperation of the OAGF, ASUU is willing to pull through its prototype platform called University Transparency and Accountability Solution, UTAS, in the place of IPEACE. UTAS is being bankrolled 100% by ASUU, and it is currently about 40%. It is currently at about 40% completion. The uniqueness of UTAS is that it is designed by a team of crack software engineers who are based in the Nigerian universities. Unlike IPEACE, UTAS is to be deployed in individual university campuses with different levels of control by the operators of the system. It can address the uniqueness of the university system, particularly the flexibility of the payroll and personnel management. Payroll and personnel management. With the federal government's cooperation, ASUU's team is willing to deliver on the project in a matter of few weeks. Our union has gone this length to provide an alternative because we are challenged to showcase what Nigerian scholars can do and prove that the incursion of global finance institutions, particularly IMF and World Bank, into our national life must be checked at some point. For too long, Nigerians have been deceived into accepting all policies imposed on us by these international money lenders as in the best interest of the country. Conclusion. Compatriots of the press, ASUU believes that government's insistence on imposing IPEACE on university lecturers is an aberration and a distraction from the substantive challenge of repositioning the Nigerian university system for increased visibility in the global map. It is like giving autonomy with one hand and taking it back with the other hand. We therefore call on our patriots in the media, the labor movement, student unions, and all working people to support ASUU's just cause for a better deal for our universities and indeed for Nigeria. The struggle continues. Thank you very much.
Solidarity forever, solidarity forever, for the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever, solidarity forever. So Africa,
Isoleto,
Aluta,
Continua,
Victory,
Azteca.
Thank you very much. For the union makes us strong.